Oh my goodness gracious, scorekeepers. Welcome back to your favorite podcast. It's another episode of The Score where we take a look at the arts and culture through our Black queer lenses. And I'm so excited for another episode here with my two brilliant friends. First, we have the lovely and ever moisturized Paige Reynolds. Hello, Paige.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I am well. I have a lovely uh tan from New Orleans. I'm feeling chocolatey and warmed by the sun.
Mm.
I'm great.
That is amazing. So, wait, how long were you in New Orleans?
A week.
Ah,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's
ah,
so good.
sounds
It was so
amazing.
good. Just enough time to see some really fantastic music. Um, have some really, really good food, walk around and people watch because it was Jazz Fest weekend, but I didn't go into Jazz Fest. I did all the outside Jazz Fest activities. Um, yeah, it was wonderful. And see my loved ones, of course, my
Yeah, of
partner, my
course.
sister, and my
Yeah.
my nephew who is so grown. Wow, kids grow so fast. What the heck?
But most importantly, what did you eat?
Yes.
Ooh, okay. Me and my partner shared this big plate of seafood of just like all the like fried fish you could want. It was it was first introduced with the bowl of gumbo. We started with that. Let's see, I had
Mm.
grilled oysters,
Mm.
of course. Um, he had a bowl of yakami waiting for me. Which if you don't know, it is the best part of of Creole and Vietnamese food put together. Creole,
Ah,
Cajun, Vietnamese food. If you haven't had that yet, please do yourself a favor and experience that. Wow.
that's a good
But yeah,
partner.
absolutely. He had it waiting when I got off the road. Two different types, shrimp and chicken.
Oh.
Hmm.
Oh, I feel so loved.
Well, that's amazing. I'm so glad you had a good time. And of course, that other voice you hear is, all right, I'm going to think of as many adjectives as I can.
Waiting.
Okay. Marvelous,
Mhm.
lovely,
Mhm.
intelligent,
Mhm.
good looking,
Mhm.
friendly most of the time.
Yeah, some yeah. Mhm.
The incredible Dr. Lee Bynum. Hello, Dr. Lee Bynum.
Hello, Tobago.
Oh, hi, Tobago.
Yes, hey Tobago.
Right? I mean Trinidad gets all the love,
Hmm.
but they're a
Mhm.
pair. They come together.
They
And I see
do.
you, Tobago. I see you.
We see you, Tobago. How are you this fine Friday morning, Dr.
I
Lee?
am just fine. I have had a very busy, very productive week, but it's been a good week. I got to see some of my favorite people, got to enjoy some good music this week, and the weather here in New York has taken a turn for the lovely.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm
Oh,
going to enjoy this 1 week of sunny, warm, and not humid weather that I think we're going to get before it all goes to shit.
Mhm. Oh, I remember those musty summer subway days.
Yeah,
ooh.
the Northeast really is like ground zero for climate change. The ways that the weather have changed in like the 30 years that I've lived in New York has been really insane. But we used to have spring. Like it used to be a whole season. We had like, I don't know, 90 days of it, and now nope.
Nope,
Spring is like a week.
Mm.
absolutely not.
Hmm.
Ay, ay, ay. I miss spring, but it's kind of nice here.
Yes.
It's
We're
been a
getting a
very,
cute little spring.
it's been very rainy,
Oh,
but I'll
has
take
it?
that. And yeah, but I'll take that.
Yeah, it's good for the flowers.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do because
Hmm.
I'm adjusting to a new reality, and I'm going to ask for some adjectives for myself.
Aw.
Oh.
Can I start?
Mm.
Yes.
Go
I
for it.
think you are a very, very warm person
Hmm. Well, thank
and
you, Lee.
and funny and
Yeah.
good with grammar and reliable and open and very, very, very not stupid. And that
Aw.
last one is that's the one.
Oh, well, that's nice. Thank you. I will
That's so
take
sweet.
that.
Lee, you covered it all. You covered all the bases.
Well, I needed that as I am adjusting to my new reality,
Yeah, I
taking
hear
it
you.
Yeah.
one day at a time. But you know what? I've had to have a lot of practice over the last year. I can safely say that this has been the shittiest year of my life on record.
Mm, yeah.
Mhm.
And I've had to adjust to a new reality several times. And so, I guess I have practice at it, but I feel like I am doing pretty good.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm,
Mhm.
continuing to go to the gym and take care of myself. And, as I sort of ride, like, sort of a little bit of a roller coaster of emotions. But for the most part, I feel okay and good and ready for this new chapter of my life. So that's good. And I have a very supportive partner and family and friends, like the two of you.
You
Um,
do.
yeah. So, things are looking up.
Yes, they are. And
Mhm.
we have lived a lot of life on
Hmm.
just like over the course of the last couple of seasons of these three shows that we have done. I mean, we've experienced all kinds of ups and downs and changes in geography and career, like not just job, but like whole like career prospects and everything. And it's been it's been wild,
It's
but
been
I am so
it's
glad to
been
have
a
had the
wild
two of
ride.
you by my side as we have negotiated post 2020 life. My goodness.
Mhm. Mhm. And as my good friend says, I don't trust anybody who ain't died at least twice.
Amen. Amen to that.
Yeah,
Ashe.
yeah. That and I saw the really sweet Instagram post from like it was from like your gym or like from your trainer featuring
Hmm.
Rocky. And I was like, this is so sweet. People had
Yeah.
like just the nicest things to say and like it's clear that you are just a person who spreads light wherever you go. I
Aw.
experience you that way anyway. And I was like, yeah, yeah, y'all give Rocky all his flowers. And you look good
Oh,
too. You look good.
wait, what was
You
that?
I said you looked good too.
Oh.
Hmm.
Oh, stop.
Yes. I was like, okay, somebody's ready for summer. Somebody's ready for pride. Period. Yes.
Well, I do what I can. I do what I can. I was having a moment a couple of days ago because I was just sort of I'm not really like upset about the thing itself, leaving the opera, but I think I was just kind of taken aback by just sort of the abruptness of it.
Yeah.
And sort of feeling a little bit sort of like, kind of getting, thrown out like a piece of trash. And I was sitting there, I was talking to my husband, and I was just like, am I a piece of trash? It was just like, no.
Oh,
And then like all of these nice, lovely things happen. And it was just like, oh, okay. So my strategy of just sort of like trying to be nice and kind and useful and funny and not an asshole. I guess it's starting to pay dividends, so that's exciting.
yeah.
And let that be a lesson to all of you assholes out there.
Because it really does seem like they're having a great year,
They really
unless
are. Oh
you
my
start
God.
digging into some of those latest polls. I'm like, oh, it's kind of hard out here for an asshole lately.
Well, I
Wah.
I don't even know what to say about that because yeah.
It's been it's been wild. I said to myself that there wasn't anything political that's happened since we recorded last that I wanted to comment on, except one thing. That
Hmm.
whole weird conflation confusion that Trump did of Harlem and Harvard yesterday. It
I
I'm not
Wait, what?
Yeah, somebody asked him a question about Harvard, and he went on a whole rant about Harlem and black people rioting and this and that and whatever.
What?
I can
but
only
he
listen to every third word at this point
but it
when
was
he starts
weird
speaking.
because he wasn't just saying Harlem and meant Harvard. He was literally confusing them because he would talk at
Hmm.
one point about like anti-Semitism on campus and then flip to I got more of the black vote than ever. And I'm like, but not at Harvard. I mean, ain't
What?
three black people at Harvard. Like it was a very bizarre senior moment. And I think we just need to start talking about what that means. The president of the United States is a fairly complicated job, and whomever is doing it needs to be sharp, 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 sharp. Right? You need to know what's going on. You need to know the difference between Harlem and Harvard. You need to know the definition of tariff. You need to understand how the world works. And I think we have spun right off of that. But that's just fine because I have a lot of TV to catch up on. So I am not watching the news ever again.
I'm so not interested. I can't do it. And it's just I just find when these moments happen, I'm just like literally 1 year ago, we were all sitting here talking about like Joe Biden and his decline and da 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 da, and is he mentally fit to be the president? And now 1 year later, Harvard
Mm-hmm.
Harlem
Yeah.
can't
Right.
tell that the tattoos on this man's
Oh my
knuckles
God.
are
Yeah.
photoshopped and
Yeah.
has to have his entire cabinet sitting around licking his whole asshole in order for him to feel good. Like it's too much. It's too
It
much.
it really it really really is. And I feel like there's a funny way that my most recent job shift has meant that I've had to pay more attention to what's happening in the news because so much of what I'm doing is around fundraising for the organization and just even going back to a place where I'm like reading the newspaper or watching the corporate media. It's not where I want to be either,
Mm-mm.
and not just because of what they're reporting, how they report, what they choose to report on, what they choose not to report on. It's all a lot. It's a whole lot.
Mm-mm-mm. It's also the way his stupidity, Trump's stupidity, just makes way for the people behind him or who are supporting him who have a terrible agenda, but are unfortunately smart to just run amok
Yep.
because he has no idea what's going on. It's just like, yeah, that sounds good. So there are some like evil geniuses,
Hmm.
on his side, and that is so frustrating to watch. People who have probably, been plotting on this kind of terror for a while and probably just waiting for someone either just as terrible as them or
Hmm.
stupid enough to just let it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just All of those things, and also completely uninterested in governing, just wants the
Yeah.
title in order to go off and golf all day and make money
Mhm.
for his friends.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
as
he's like
long
a little
as,
kid.
yeah, and as long as those things are happening, then like this sort of league of supervillains can be left to just sort of, tinker with the country in the most horrific ways.
Yeah.
Like I saw that clip of Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, talking about we're gonna have this amazing like what we need to do is bring manufacturing jobs back and it's gonna be amazing. You're gonna work in a factory for your whole life and your children will work in the same factory and your grandchildren will work in the same factory. It's wonderful. It's amazing. And I'm just like, isn't that like some dystopian novel? Isn't that like Hunger Games or Divergent or like it's just wild. It's just wild. But we are here to talk about arts and culture and very exciting. The Tony nominations just came out yesterday.
Did they?
They did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, Dr. Lee, looking in your direction, since you are in New York City, just wanted to take your temperature and see what you were thinking.
Yeah, I was actually kind of pleased when I was looking at these nominations yesterday. There was some very exciting things in terms of a lot of Black people picked up nominations, quite a few Latinx people, a lot of Asian Americans, and also a couple of gender non-conforming folks. So if I can, a couple things I want to highlight because I'm super excited about them. There's this play called Purpose, which is directed by Felicia Rashad and was written
Yeah.
by yeah. Super excited about it. It got a lot of nominations. It's about a Black family in politics. And notably, friend in the head, Kara Young, got her fourth consecutive nomination for
Amazing.
Best Featured
Word.
Actress in a Play. And by consecutive, I mean 2022, 2023, 2024, and now 2025. Never been done before. Probably won't be done again. She is a marvel on stage, and I certainly
Truly.
hope she wins. No shade to the other nominees. And Audra Ann, who needs no introduction, picked up her 11th nomination for Gypsy. If she wins, it'll be her seventh win, which is she already has the record for the most wins. She's over here Beyonceing fully, but she now has the most nominations of any performer as well. So that's also exciting to see. And then lastly, one of my favorite things of the season is a play called Oh Mary, which is a farcical take on President Lincoln's wife. And it's written by a person named Cole Escola, who is a non binary playwright who received nominations for Best Actor in a Play and also Best Play. Super excited about it. Titus Burgess was in the show for a while when Cole was out. And I think this might be the first instance of a non-binary person being nominated for Best Play. In 2019, another playwright named Taylor Mack was nominated for Best Play for Gary, a sequel to Titus Andronicus. And Taylor is often referred to as non-binary, but I'm pretty certain that is not actually how Taylor identifies. Taylor uses non-standard pronouns. Judy is the pronoun that Taylor uses.
Hmm.
And I think it confuses people in terms of maybe what Taylor's uh, gender identity is. But shout to Taylor as well. Gary was a really funny play. So blah 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 blah. Good day to be a theater person in New York, even though Denzel wasn't nominated. I have a feeling that he's fine.
He's
It's not
straight.
like
He's
that
good.
shelf is bare. So yeah, he's fine. But yeah, congratulations to all the nominees. Super excited about the Tonys this year and super excited to spend the month of May seeing a bunch of shows. So happy to be back in New York.
Yes.
Mm.
Well, I mean, as many of you know, if you listen to art class, we went and saw Pearly Victorious together last year. And I think when
Mm.
all of us walked out of the theater, Carrie Young was the name on everyone's lips.
Yes.
She
Hmm.
was magnificent. I can't even remember. I mean, Pearly Victorious was one of my top three favorite theater experiences ever. And a
Hmm.
huge part of that was her performance. She was just luminous.
Yeah, she
Absolutely.
truly was.
Yeah, the fact that I, I feel like Leslie Odom Jr., of course, was like the big name
Mhm.
that was in that show, but he was one. He was wonderful. He was
He
Wonderful.
wonderful. But
was
Wonderful.
who
absolutely
Yeah.
I
wonderful.
truly remember
Yeah.
Mhm.
is that Kara
Yeah.
Young. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the first moment she opened her mouth with that crazy accent that she was doing, I
Hmm.
I was useless. And then you see her in something else and she doesn't talk like that. And you're like, oh, this woman is talented.
Actress. Actrice. Now, I'm curious, Lee. Have you seen or heard any, well, I'm sure you've heard,
Mhm.
any thoughts, rumblings about this new production of Sunset Boulevard with Nicole Scherzinger?
Yeah, seen and heard. It wasn't for me.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
thought it was weird. And Sunset Boulevard is actually a show I like a lot. I've seen lots of different productions of it. And this one, like they both modernized it and abstracted it. And I think for people who are big fans of Nicole Scherzinger, I think it's probably a special kind of treat. Um, but I was a little bit more neutral neutral to it. Like it, I mean, yeah, I did. It wasn't. I thought it was kind of weird.
So, in the best actress in a musical diva off your team, Audra, I take it.
No, I'm actually
Oh,
team Jasmine Amy Rogers,
okay.
a young African American actress who's starring in a musical based on Betty Boop. And
Ooh.
she sounds amazing. She moves beautifully. She's so cute in the role. I absolutely love it. No shade to Audra, but kind of like Denzel, Audra's fine. I mean, she's got a shelf full of awards.
Hmm.
She's not, in need of any kind of spotlight to move her career to new places. But I actually think of someone like Jasmine Amy Rogers. This is the first time I'd seen or heard of her. Um, the boost of winning a Tony, I think, would be huge for her career. And also, I thought she was excellent, absolutely excellent in the show. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm hoping. But if Audra wins, like it won't be surprising and it won't be upsetting. I will say this for the featured actress in a musical, I was hoping to see Jinx Monsoon nominated. She wasn't, and that's okay. Jinx is having a great year; she'll be fine.
Hmm.
And I was also kind of hoping that Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child would be nominated.
Yes.
But there's a weird relationship sometimes between Broadway and Hollywood, and how much they're willing to embrace people from outside of the community. But I really enjoyed Michelle's performance in Death Becomes Her. Michelle has, for a very long time, been my favorite member of Destiny's Child. Don't tell Beyonce. I
What?
I just really I love Michelle. Like I love her voice. I like how she sings. I like how when she got in the group, she was like, "Yeah, I'm just over here. I'm not gonna say anything crazy. Y'all ain't kicking me out of this group. I will sing my little bridge in every song and just keep it
After
moving."
all of the darkness and sadness, through comes happiness. If I surround myself with positive things, I gain prosperity.
She ate
She's
up
like,
them bridges. She ate them up.
she ate every last one of them up, and she saw what happened to Farah. Farah was in Destiny's Child for 3 days before they disappeared her, and nobody's heard from her since.
They
And
left her
Michelle
in
was like,
Australia with her. They said, "We'll get your luggage back to you somehow. Ma'am, you need to go."
and legend has it, she is still in the Melbourne airport waiting for her luggage to this day.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you see the video of Michelle Williams meeting white Michelle Williams?
I did.
No.
It really tickled me.
Oh, that tickled me as well.
Shout to Michelle and shout to white Michelle.
Yes, yes,
Both of them, I
very
guess.
talented actress as well.
She ate up Dawson's Creek back in the day.
She
She gave all
did.
those boys a fever. I
Uh-huh.
She
remember that.
did. She sure did. That death scene in the final season.
Yeah. Don't get me
But
started on Dawson's Creek or any of the other shows we watched in college.
oh,
Felicity. Oh, I mean, they were all such terrible shows. I mean,
we
they were
should do
so
an
terrible.
episode.
We should, especially if it doesn't require me to rewatch any of them.
No, 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 no. I was a big Buffy guy, but of course I would be since I am queer.
Wait, Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yes.
You know that's not based on a true story, right?
Wait, what?
I have
It's
never known
not.
you to embrace fiction, my friend. Look at you.
Well, I guess I have to reassess. I thought Sunnydale was a real place. I thought it was a documentary. No, I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was one of the best shows on television. Shame about Joss Whedon, but
Seriously, the musical episode of Buffy was one of my favorite
yes.
favorite things. Like I think it was the first time I'd seen a show do a musical episode, and now every show does one, and they usually
Hmm.
suck. But
And it was great because Joss Whedon was like, I'm going to base this on the music of Stephen Sondheim.
mm-hmm,
And it was just like,
mm-hmm.
okay. Well done.
And
Yeah,
also
that
shout to
works.
Sarah Michelle Gellar for like defying the Hollywood odds with her like 20 plus year marriage. Like I
Mhm.
actually feel like that's not nothing. Being married is not easy, and
No,
being
God,
married
no.
in like the public eye is really not easy. And I always liked them from Scooby-Doo. So I'm kind of into that they're still together and seemingly happy.
And their son's name is Rocky.
Aw.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was too young for any of these shows. I
Oh my
remember
God.
the theme songs. Buffy the Vampire Slayer was on sometimes, and it's one of those things where like the fact that it was just in the background and like my older sister watched it probably contributes to me just like being a weirdo now, you know. So, you know, I was influenced. I was old enough to be influenced.
Well, what a time to be alive, though. Those WB
Yeah.
shows.
Hmm.
Buffy, Felicity, Charmed.
Hmm.
Now, I only got to see the very grown, probably the folks who watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer as teens or as kids, then watched True Blood
Oh, well,
when I was a
okay.
teenager.
There
So
you
yeah,
go.
that's what I watched.
A little
I
more
love True Blood.
R-rated.
A lot more, a lot more. There were
Nelson
just
Ellis died too young. Just
Yes,
sidebar. He was
way too
such a talented
young.
yes,
actor.
so
Such a talented
talented.
actor.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Like that queer representation
Hmm.
specifically just did a lot for me.
Yeah.
And whatever
Rested
happened
well.
to Suki's brother? Because that young man
Oh,
was.
yeah, he was a fine. He was
Mm,
a
I'm just
fine looking
saying.
daddy.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him in something like a year or two ago. So like he was from over yonder, Australia, something like that. And I think he maybe went back and is more on Australia TV now, if I'm not talking out of turn. But I definitely saw him on something like in the last couple of months and was very excited that he popped up because I was like, oh, wait, where has he been? That
Hmm.
was actually kind of a fun. That was a really fun show. Now that I'm looking back on it.
Well, if he's in
Hmm.
Australia, I might have to go join Farah at the Melbourne airport.
Might explain why she decided not to come back.
I'm just
So,
saying. Well, we have a jam-packed episode for you today. We're going to have an interesting little conversation, just about, there have been so many changes lately as a consequence of this administration's shift in policy when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially in the arts. And so we're just kind of curious about where we are, where we're going. Um, and so if that's something you're interested in, stick around for a sec and we'll be right back with that conversation. Y'all ready?
Yay.
Ready.
All right. We'll be right back. And we are back. So yeah, like I was saying, we are in a very interesting moment. After the reckoning and the uprisings of 2020, so many arts institutions, um, you know, heeded the call to create spaces that were more equitable, more diverse, more inclusive of, global majority folks, disabled folks, queer folks, so on and so forth. Um, and it seems now here in 2025 that, due to budget cuts and restructuring and all of these sorts of things, um, those programs, those departments, and in a number of places seem to be going away. And so I guess the question that I posit is, you know, what happened? Because I think the easy sort of uh the easy thing to say, perhaps, is like, oh, well, Trump was reelected and, all of these crazy executive orders went out and that, you know, sort of hastened all of this. But the backlash, was happening years before Trump's reascendance. And so, yeah, I guess I'm curious to hear from the two of you. What are your thoughts? What happened?
I mean, it kind of feels like America being America, right?
Yes.
Like pendulums, swing in each directions, and I feel like, you know, the election of Barack Obama really did mean that there was going to have to be some kind of counterweight to that moment of, ostensible progress. So I think A, that is a piece of that. And then B, I think we really do have a very real challenge with white maleness in our country, where the many ways that we have set that as the default, right? The default for what is good, the default for what is normal, the default for what is acceptable, in a moment where the rest of us were trying to make more space for us, for everybody, right? This particular group of people and people who are aligned with the sort of power structures that support this notion of white maleness had a very harsh response to being decentered, right? To them, that moment of being decentered equated with all of the oppression that everybody else had ever felt for hundreds of years, for thousands of years, right? And I really do think that there has been this sort of spiraling because that's such a part of the national identity, and there are whole segments of our country that can't make sense of reality if that's not in the center, right?
Mhm.
And we used to talk about that when we were working together in Impact at Minnesota, this sort of idea that like you're being decentered isn't the same thing as you're being oppressed. But I really don't think that it is something that people are feeling, right? And I've really been trying to put in a little bit more work into understanding it because I feel like it is a major national issue, and it is something that those of us who are solutions oriented sort of have to have some awareness of how these things are playing out and why they're playing out if we seek to move beyond it, right? And like you watch, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, I've been watching a lot of videos that are coming from this segment, and it really does seem like they're unmoored, like they've lost the sense of their function, they've lost the sense of
Mhm.
their place in society. And instead of trying to say, okay, we now need to figure out who we are, kind of like the rest of us have to do frequently, being a part of the polity here, like instead of that, there's this notion of, so now we have to burn the whole thing down, or if we're not in the center, then it can't possibly be right, it can't possibly work, we something is off because we are the default. So that's kind of how I've been experiencing reality lately, and why it feels so weird. I think it, to me, has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
I feel that. It feels like
Absolutely.
a lot of misplaced frustration. Also, like I don't know, I feel like people have been basically like asking like why are things hard? Why does my life feel hard? And people were still asking, we're asking that in like 2020 and 2021, where um when EDI work was all the rage at the time, people, I think people had those same questions, but it was not in vogue to then use people of color, queer folks, trans folks, Black and Indigenous folks specifically as the scapegoats.
Yeah.
It wasn't socially acceptable at that time. But now it is again.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
now it is again. It's
In a
especially trans folks. Like I really appreciate, someone was talking to um 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 Jasmine Crockett recently. And it was just like one clip of her in an interview where she was like, please find the little trans child who is making your life hard.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Show me, show me the little trans child just trying to live their life that's making your life difficult. Um, so yeah, I agree with Lee that people are then just trying to, take down the whole ship, trying to point the finger in any other direction. Oh, it's not the our messed up um, system that's, or wealth inequality and all of that that's making it hard. It's this EDI stuff that we've been doing
Right.
that's been making my job more complicated and harder. It's it's not the fact that we have a ridiculous wealth gap, that we don't have healthcare, we don't have proper education. It's because I have to enact these EDI policies and
Yep.
have to make sure that Black people are being treated equitably. That's what's making my life hard. And yeah, we're just watching everyone, well, not everyone, but watching people just kind of, I don't know, bleed out over the rest of all over the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's always the thing that has driven me crazy. I want to preface before I start speaking, that as we all know, I have recently left a an EDI position at an arts institution. And so I just want to specify that I'm just going to be talking in generalities. I'm not talking about anything that happened at my former institution specifically. Um, but the thing that sort of drives me crazy about that, though, is that EDI work is hard and it is
Yeah.
complicated and it is adding another layer on top of the things that you need to do. But like if you're actually doing the work, then in the end, everyone's work becomes easier because we are all sort of in a much more equitable, inclusive environment. We are sharing the accountability. We are, everyone is being transparent about what they're doing and how much they're making. And like we can all just sort of breathe a little bit easier. But yeah, we do have to sort of get over this hump of 400 years of American white supremacy. And that's not an easy hump to get over. And so that is a huge reason why, when I was first sort of offered my position, I was very reticent to take it because I just knew in my mind and in my heart somewhere. I think we have seen it sort of time and time again throughout the course of my 43 years on this planet that something terrible happens. Rodney King, Michael Brown, um, Trayvon, countless Sandra Bland, countless names that I can rattle
Countless.
off my my head. And then there's a small reckoning, and everybody like realizes like, oh my God, this system is so broken. We need to do something about it. And then somehow white supremacy sort of regenerates and everyone's brains reset at midnight. And it goes back to normal and black people become the problem again. Or, Latino people become the problem, or trans people become the problem, or whoever it is becomes the problem. When there was, everyone had an acute awareness and understanding of what the problem actually is. And we are seeing it right now in such stark relief where we have, you know, these, politicians and billionaires like going on TV and literally like like it's so cartoonish. Like so cartoonishly evil that like, I would imagine it's the type of thing that we, teach like 4-year-olds. Like, He-Man is good, Skeletor is bad. Like Skeletor is running the country right now. And there was just something in my mind back in 2020 that was like, okay, yeah, we all, unfortunately had to sit there in our homes watching George Floyd get murdered over and over and over again. Maybe this is the thing that finally, clicks it into place for people. But I'm not really sure if that's the case. And then now here we are with the reascendance of Donald Trump, and just this, people getting, disappeared off the street for, exercising their constitutional right to free speech. And so, of course, all of that is going to trickle down, into institutions who, are, and I think, of course, there's probably a financial case that could be made, especially in the arts. Most arts institutions have not recovered from, their financially gotten back to like pre-pandemic audience levels and those sorts of things. But I think also there is a little bit of sort of complying in advance that's going
Oh
on.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
And that's the thing that's really disappointing and scary. And I think it's been happening for a long time. I'll say that a couple of years ago, um, Paige and I are both alums of the National Facilitator Training of a program called, or an organization called Art Equity. And they do really activist training
Mm-hmm.
for folks in the arts specifically. And so they did a sort of a reunion of sorts a couple of years ago in New Orleans. And everyone who had been a part of all of their different programs, so not just the National Facilitator training, but there's a BIPOC Leadership Circle and uh, uh, surviving predominantly white institutions and a whole bunch of different things. And I think, especially for the people of color who were there were sort of two camps. And this was like 2022, 2023. Um, on the one hand, you had folks who, you know, were doing the work in, great organizations, probably left their PWIs, who were doing, work with each other or on their own and were there to just sort of like see their friends and have a good time, and enjoy. And then you had the other, like the group of just like shell-shocked people who were trying to
Mhm.
do DEI work in PWIs and just experiencing all of this pushback. A lot of the things that I heard were that like I was given this job, but I wasn't given any real authority to do anything. And yet people expect me to be sort of like the arbiter of this. And now I just kind of feel like a functionary. And I see all of these things happening. And if I speak up, then I'm just sort of being disruptive. And all of these organizations are just kind of good at like, doing the pretty thing, like putting more artists of color on the stage. But like when it comes to actually like changing things systemically, like the way that they do business, the way that they engage with communities and with their staff, those are the things that people are really reticent to change. Um, and this was happening, these conversations were happening in 2023. So I guess I'm just, long story short, just kind of a little sad, but like not super surprised that
Yeah.
this is where we're at?
Oh yeah, so much of it is just a big like we told you so.
Yeah,
Like I'm thinking,
right?
yeah, I'm thinking about just how many times I have sat in a room where we were talking about equity and access and inclusion, and the people who know about these things, especially the ones who have lived experience, would always stress structural change.
Yep.
Structural
Mhm.
change. They would always stress what is how is your budget reflecting these values that you're touting, like both where your money is going and who you're getting it from. Who is on your board, uh who are you hiring, but also who is on your board, who
Hmm.
how do you make the decisions that you make in the first place, who is involved in the decision making. This is why all of those things were stressed. And I do think that people who have like maybe some policies more like I don't know, really like enshrined the work they were doing, um, are looking a little better right now. Like there are a lot of folks who are struggling, especially with stuff that's tied to resources and possibly being denied resources, being denied money, especially for standing up for their values. But yeah, I think the ones who actually did that structural work are looking a little better. They're a
Mhm.
little bit more
Hmm.
poised to stand 10 toes down on the
Hmm.
stuff they were saying.
Absolutely.
I also wanted to bring up, I know we were preparing for this episode, I was talking about how like this is across the board. And I could speak to, some experiences with the more like organizing centered work that I do.
Mhm.
Um, so I haven't been directly in arts administration for for a
For a
few years
minute, yeah.
now. I know, but always adjacent. I'm still an artist, still in the community, and there are often in community organizing kind of spaces. It often is a lot of artists. That is what I find, that we're the ones doing that work and just who have the some of the strongest imagination, to make it happen. Um, Just want to put that out there. Shout out to the artist organizers. Artists have always been essential to the movement, to every movement. But yeah, so I work with Rep for MN, Relationships Evolving Possibilities, and really founded like on abolitionist values. But don't exclusively work with abolitionists. Our whole thing is helping our communities, our neighbors figure out better ways to take care of each other without using police, without using carceral systems, and especially for those who are most marginalized among us, you know? And in 2020 and even 2021, after the uprisings, post George Floyd, you know, there was a lot of support. There was plenty of financial support. It was way more in vogue to support Black-led work. That's the other thing. Rep is Black-led and like always says so openly. Yeah, there was a lot more support we were able to garner from grants, from foundations, from private funders, and that was really important as we don't take any state money, just because of our mission. And we, over the past couple of years, had to really it's been challenging. It's been challenging. I don't know what else to say.
I can't even imagine.
Challenging. Yeah, I am very proud of how we've been able to, you know, stretch resources or just use them wisely. But yeah, we are in a totally different moment right now. And there may have been just a little period where we were just like, okay, is there something more we could be doing? Like, are we are we tripping? But no, it was just really like to watch the trend in funding change like that, and feel it directly. Yeah, like really like that was wild. And this is like even before, you know, Trump was actually in office. The way that just like the counter narratives after the uprising, you know, started to come up, or as people started to be receive like more and more pushback for the like progressive like changes that had been made. You know, there's always like when there's a wave of people standing up for justice, of resisting in some way, and when they're successful at it, especially when they're successful at it, there's going to be like a counter to that, you know. The pendulum's going to swing the other way. But just watching how fast that happened has been kind of wild. And now we are seeing how projects that are similar to ours are also like making public statements of like, we've had to end our programming, just straight up end it. Like the groups we took inspiration from, like there is one called Cahoots in oh gosh, this is the Pacific Northwest somewhere. I'm gonna get my cities mixed up. But they are an like mental health crisis response that is not connected to police in any way. So when there's a crisis going on along those lines, like they show up. No police, no nothing like that. Really great program that we took inspo from. I want to say maybe like a month ago or something like that, announced to the public that they were kind of abruptly, you know, ending their programs. There's also MH First in Oakland that we have taken a lot of inspiration from, who has just recently announced that they are taking like a good pause to to restructure. they are, I think, like a hotline that people can call into when they have crisis and don't want to talk to police. So people who are doing the similar work, who we have learned a lot from, are now having to like shut down or take big pauses. Um, and yeah, that is disheartening
To say
It
the
for
is.
least.
sure, to say the least. Um, and it brings up a lot of questions for me about just how we are going to continue to resource this work. Um, I also know that like people always find a way to take care of each other somehow. I just don't know what those other ways might be
Yeah.
at this moment, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so we're across the board, people who are, especially the more like radical kind of language you use, like people who are very abolition aligned. That is, uh-oh. um, people very abolition aligned. That is
Mhm.
how rep is, how the other two groups I reference kind of is. They're, I think, really maybe feeling some of the swing the hardest. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know what what other alternatives people are going to find to support our work, but I welcome suggestions. I welcome people's creative ideas. If you have examples, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to all the artists out there. And I'm, you know, feeling much the same way, because obviously, we all know I was restructured out of my position, but every day it's like, you hop on the social media and and I see somebody else who is in a position very much like mine. People that I really respect and look up to who are, all of a sudden saying the same thing. I've been restructured out of my position, and if anybody has any leads on anything, and it's just sort of like, okay, wow, so what do we do now?
Mhm.
I I don't know because and there's this well I don't want to say that. I was going to say something really pessimistic. And because I'm trying to remain optimistic too, because like at the same time, like quiet as it's kept, this whole time, we've been right. Like we are correct. This is the correct position to take. Anti-racism, abolition, all of these things are objectively correct. So I don't know. I mean, Lee, do you have any thoughts? I'm curious because you have been doing DEI consulting for so many years now. And I'm just sort of wondering, like, have you seen just sort of in your consulting opportunities, has there been like sort of a slowdown when it comes to opportunities? Are people looking for different things? Are the conversations changing?
Oh
How
yeah.
does that look for
The
you?
conversations that they are very, very different right now, because there actually is a legal consequence, right? Like we went
Hmm.
from a situation where there was probably a social impact consequence for not doing equity work, and now we've switched where there may be legal consequences to doing anything that can be considered that, right? So
Hmm.
organizations have been falling into a couple of different groups. There have been the groups, and I think we can probably off the top of our heads name like 30 of them that couldn't wait not to do EDI anymore.
Right.
Those are those.
Right.
And then there's the group that, for whatever reason, because of the kinds of work they do, they're really having to dig in and do it and really focus on this. So a lot of where you're seeing stuff like that happens to be in healthcare. So, for instance, cancer research, which is something every last one of us should care about. Um, you absolutely must have very diverse groups of people in any sample because of the ways that cancer affects humans. Like we actually need that kind of diverse data to understand how to save people's lives, right? And I won't get into the specifics of it because I haven't quite been given license to talk about it publicly. But a conversation I was having with someone who's very close to me, who worked for one of the more science-oriented governmental entities who lost their job, was saying to me, like, the kind of work that they do, where they're literally researching Black people because the rates of incidence of skin cancer are so low in melanated people, so that they can benefit people who are not as melanated as us. um, that's not for me, right? Like that
Mm-hmm.
falls into a DEI space, but like most DEI or EDI or whatever you want to call it, it's actually for the benefit of white people. It's really not for people of color, right? Like most DEI has been about either preparing predominantly white spaces or white people to be able to receive as equals in the workplace, colleagues in school, where have you. That's what the point of these programs are. They're not usually about us, right?
Mm-mm.
So when you take something out, like, okay, so the Trump's government was doing that thing where they were literally using AI to find on government websites who was doing anything with people of color, women, queer people, people with disabilities, and then just ending those programs completely willy-nilly. And it's like, wow, it's white people are the ones affected primarily by skin cancer in the main, right? So like this disdain for DEI is something worth cutting your own nose off to spite your face. Like it just doesn't make a lot of sense until you do this. Place this in its historical context, right? And the history of the United States around anything with, identity, especially with race, it is very up and down. It is not a linear thing. It is very, we take one
Mhm.
step forward and sometimes get knocked back six, right? Like that has very much been the process of it. So everything that's happening right now is only a part of the cycle of history of a country that refuses to engage
Mm-hmm.
with its own consequences around the choices it has made relative to race in our own country and also relative to race in other countries. Like, we don't want to have any of those conversations. We just want to roll through as if nothing is happening. And you see what it's wrought.
It's just, it's like, in AA, you can't start to fix the problem until you admit that there is a problem. And that's sort of what it felt like in 2020. Like, okay, we're actually maybe gonna start having conversations about the problem. And then it was like, well, uh uh let's talk about, this sort of inconsequential or surface thing, like, sort of like interpersonal racism. Like I get on a bus and a white woman grabs her purse and it's like, no, that's that sucks and it's terrible and that woman shouldn't be doing that. But like, can we talk about like the structural things, the institutional things, the systemic things? And then that's when it became like, oh wait, this is gonna be hard. Like I can't just
Mm-hmm.
like we're actually gonna have to change whole systems and institutions and actually like talk about sort of the history like from 1620 on
Mm-hmm.
and the way all of those things like trickle down 1492 even before that probably.
Even before, right? And the fact that there were active projects to really shift people's understanding of Africa and America, these things dating back to the 1400s to 1500s, to make the imperial project easier, right? So like even things like the myth of Africa as a dark continent, that came up as a consequence of imperialism when European nations wanted to exploit the resources that were in Africa. The way that they were able to do that is by recasting what Africa was to other Europeans, right? And that kind of thing very frequently happens in the United States. I'm sure I've spoken about this before in a different context, but Khalil Muhammad, who is a professor at Harvard, and you may be able to tell from the surname, he is, I believe, the great grandson of Elijah Muhammad. He
Mm.
has a really fantastic book called The Condemnation of Blackness that actually goes through and talks about how sociology as an academic discipline in this country, how much of that was predicated on creating a myth of a criminalized Black person in an effort to develop a unified white identity, right? So, like, if you go back 100 years, whiteness doesn't quite look like it does now.
Right.
When people sort of recognize Irish and Jews and Southern Europeans and such, they didn't think of them as white in the same sense. And a part of how that shifted were active projects to make the definition of whiteness broader. And the way that you do that is by making it in relation to something else, which is Blackness, right? And I think we also have to be able to talk about so many of these understandings that we have about groups of people are completely fictive. They're just completely fictive, right? And if you take it to something like the college stuff we were talking about before, that can only exist if somebody has built a notion that we are somehow interlopers, right? The people who deserve to be in certain spaces deserve it by virtue of their genetics, I suppose. And the rest of us who are getting in are like DEI hires or somehow not worthy of being there. But that's only because they formulated as this thing belongs to this group of people, right? Like that's not a like a natural thing. That's social engineering,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Ay, 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 ay. And it's just like, what is that? There's a particular form of bias where it's like when something clicks for you and becomes correct to the point of obviousness, you can't understand how other people don't see it as obvious. There's a term for it, and I can't remember what it is, but that's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. I mean, I've also been feeling that way, or like, I don't know, as Lee was talking, and I was thinking about like people, um, I don't know, whiteness being kind of fluid and different people being able to join in on
Mhm.
on whiteness at different points. Um, I don't know, that also has me thinking about this moment and like suppression of support for Palestine,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and how, again, but because of, our lack of conversation about what like race and whiteness really is, I think there are a lot of people who also don't realize that their support of Israel's actions of genocide, their false claims of anti-Semitism for people who are just like, no, I'm just anti-Zionism or anti-genocide. I just don't like
Mhm.
seeing kids getting um blown
Bombed.
up,
Yeah.
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 So people who are suppressing that, they're not realizing that that is also like a form of like forming allegiance to whiteness as well. Like they're not they're not really getting it because we haven't had that full that full discussion. um I mean, for one, there's just like the patterns of white supremacy that you um have to suppress, have to control the conversation, have to um just kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? There's a politeness that you
Mhm.
that you have to maintain
Mhm.
in the face of very very violent things. um yeah, and that is I think that's a big part of the conversation right now about people complying in advance as well. Um, I think that it's on some level, I on some level I get it sometimes because there is the increased just like legal consequences. Like we are watching people be disappeared because for protesting. That's
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that we yeah,
It's
like
terrifying.
we're there. We're there. We're there. But I do wonder how people like maybe do or don't realize how that is still connected to everything else.
Yeah.
Just as connected to anti-blackness, to all kinds of other systems of oppression that are happening right here as well. Like if you're accepting one, it is it's
Mm.
in bed with all the others, you know.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And I think that's sort of I I don't know why, but I for some reason went on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. I
Boo.
I was just bored. I don't know. And there was like a very casual acquaintance who, a white person who considers themselves very sort of liberal. And they were saying something, they had put a post up about like, we need to stop, focusing on the trans issue, quote unquote, because, it's not getting us anywhere and there are bigger fish to fry. And I was just like,
Oh dear.
okay, I guess I have time today. And and I just went through just sort of like the historical, context for, sort of, the trans folks throughout history and fascist movements, especially in Nazi Germany, and then just going trying to explain that like you can't just sort of like throw this one group of people to the wolves because if you do that, then there's not going to be any pushback when another group of folks get
Mm-hmm.
fed to the wolves, and then eventually you're going to get fed to the wolves. So do you see now how all of our liberation is tied together? Because if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. We're all in this together. We are all humans in this space together, and we're
And
all going
yet,
to die together or thrive together. But yet, and yet,
yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the trick of it, right? Because I think there really is a population of people in this country that don't believe that we're all together and increasingly
Mm-hmm.
think that there are some of us who are here because we want what is theirs, right? And again, I want to
Mm-hmm.
problematize the idea of the what is theirs because it's not always just about like this. These brown people are here to take my property. Like I think in some instances it's kind of
they're
like,
taking our gerbs.
right. No, I do. I think it's like we have been guaranteed, we've been promised a thing, like a certain version of life is supposed to be promised to us, and because these people are here we don't get it now, as opposed in some instances to like tying it to simple progress, like all the stuff about like the factory jobs. Like we don't have all these factory jobs here because technology has just moved us past that now, right? Like that's not a thing, but the ways that some of this is coming out in the public messaging, it's this thing where America has turned its back on its history, or
On the
what's
working
made us who we are,
class.
right?
Mhm.
And it's like, mm, you're confused about what this moment is,
Mhm.
and why people don't do that. But I agree with both of you. I think a moment is coming that's going to be very uncomfortable. I think the moment that's coming that's going to make some of this uncomfortable is Christmas, because I
Mhm.
think Christmas is going to be all of a sudden when everybody who just kind of wants to go along with whatever certain politicians are saying and not be critical of any of it, not hold them to account on anything when they're sitting around their bare Christmas trees because every toy
Mhm.
is made in China and all of our Christmas decorations are made in Vietnam. Do you know what I mean? Like there are pieces of this that I think people are just absolutely not even processing yet. Like we are
I
really in a
mean,
very complicated place right now.
I would agree with that, except for, do you remember last Christmas when supposedly we were, you know, Biden's economy is terrible and this and that. Like that billionaire that like put that video on social media and there's like 1,000 presents under his giant Christmas tree. And he's saying something like, if your Christmas tree doesn't look like this, then you are poor and disgusting and da 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 and this and that. And people still went about their business.
Mhm.
Like the subtext is just text now. And there's just seems to be this huge group of people that like as long as folks of color, as long as queer and trans folk, as long as women, as long as disabled people are suffering, it doesn't matter if I suffer as well.
Yes.
And that's just fucked to me. It's so crazy to me. But yeah, all
Yeah.
right, have fun, paying $500 for your Tickle Me Elmo. Have to take out a second mortgage for a Barbie doll, but okay.
But to those earlier points that y'all were making, people have a very hard time understanding reality until it is their reality, right?
Mm-mm.
And I
Yeah.
I do think that there's going to have to be some kind of moment of reckoning that's probably going to be sooner rather than later. I mean, between the contracting economy and the the what I feel like is a likelihood of being at war with some country we have no business being at war with sometime in the next 15 months, I do think people are going to have a moment of really having to think differently. I mean, like that weird commercial about um what they wanted to do with the Gaza Strip.
Oh my
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, do
God.
you not understand that this is an invitation to war for like a huge swath of the population of that part of the world? Like that, this isn't cute. This is not a time for like a ridiculous jingle in an AI video. Like that's not what this is supposed to be. You're talking about genocide and displacement of a group of people for the second time in 80 years. Like there really needs to be a different kind of thinking about some of this.
I
Well,
mean, it's
he
like the
probably.
racism and Islamophobia just makes people illogical too.
Yeah.
Just so illogical
Yeah.
because it's like, how do you not see that? And maybe a little bit of you wonder, like, maybe could it be that none of us have money because it's all going to war?
Hmm.
Maybe just
Hmm.
like, why are we over there? What is? I don't have health care,
I
but
was just I was just reading
but
I was just reading this morning about there's a town in Texas, smallish town, about 70,000 folks. And they were sort of, their city council was sort of looking at the budget and they were sending something like, you know, $4 million or $40 million or something like that, um, a year to Israel.
my God.
To fund genocide and weapons and whatnot. And they were like,
Hmm.
maybe we could take that money that our taxpayers are paying and use that to fund our schools or fix the roads or whatever. Can we do that? And Greg Abbott was like, no, that's actually against the law. You have to continue sending this money to Israel.
I mean, nobody's going to put any money in schools. I,
But it's
I
just
mean,
like the
now you're
people
talking
in this,
crazy.
like the people in this community in Texas were like, huh, this doesn't make any sense. Can we actually reinvest this money that we're paying in our taxes into our own community? I was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
that's illegal. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
But perhaps Donald Trump is thinking of Giza and putting like a resort by like the pyramids. Maybe that's what he's thinking.
He didn't own that land either. So he shouldn't be thinking that if that's what he's thinking. He should probably sit down and rest. I mean, we're talking about somebody who confused themselves between Harvard and Harlem yesterday. The man needs a nap. Like,
What are
that's
you
what he needs.
what are you talking about? He has the same body fat percentage as LeBron James.
First of all, I don't know who LeBron James is, but secondly, not doing this with y'all.
Oh Lord. So I don't know. What do you all think? What do we do?
Repatriation.
Well,
Yeah.
that's one thought.
Yeah. I mean, what y'all got against Africa? I say let's go.
Well, it would have to be somewhere where there's gay marriage so I can bring my spouse.
I mean, we're about not to have it here. Beggars can't be choosers. You better take what you can get.
I suppose. I suppose. I suppose. No, but seriously, I mean, any thoughts about the future and what we do? Just keep on keeping on, keep on having these conversations.
I mean, I
Well,
think one thing that I think about, especially as I was thinking about like the conversation about institutions, and we'll even say arts institutions specifically and what they're doing. Like, I do, I will say I at least always have faith that like artists continue to be artists and will continue to be artists together and make work together. Like, we are humans and we have to express ourselves. It's what we do. So maybe at least for me, I'll say for me personally, and also to keep a sense of peace of mind, reinvesting some of a lot of my time and energy into smaller organizations, um, ones that are maybe a little more autonomous or more grassroots. I'll put it that way. Um, and also finding ways to like not be isolated, because I think people who are within larger institutions, especially the ones who are complying in advance, um, get pretty isolated in the work that they're doing. That makes it harder. So how can I help remedy that?
Mhm.
No. So yeah, that's personally that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because a lot of institutions really are very, very isolated. And I think if there had been more of a push to sort of, I think, at the very beginning, I saw there were sort of coalitions of groups, but I think
Mm-hmm.
as the pandemic happened and we were all isolated in that way, some of those relationships kind of broke down. Um, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say, um, one thing that y'all could do if you wanted to is hire your former DEI directors. Hire a former DEI director today. We're optimistic and we're tenacious and we're intelligent and yeah, here you go. Do that.
That's actually kind of a a really lovely thought that all of these folks, and I've had this belief for a long time, all of these folks who spend any period of time working in EDI become very, very interesting when they get into other roles because they typically still bring the same values. And I actually think that's a very helpful thing to organizations to have people who are equity minded, who have people who are justice minded in a range of different roles in your organization so that they are literally doing the kind of work that does make it easier for us to include much, much larger groups of people in whatever we're doing. Where everything is better when you're including a larger, more diverse group of people. The research on that has been incredibly, incredibly consistent.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. The thing that I have always said is that there is a financial case to be made for this work. There is an artistic case to be made for this work. Just the art is going to get better. And of
Mhm.
course, there's a moral and ethical
Uh-huh.
case for this
Yeah.
work. So, and that goes for any industry. If you're just including more people who believe in what you do, and your product is getting better, then
Hmm.
it's kind of a no-brainer.
I
But
agree.
yeah, you do have to have some hard conversations every once in a
Yeah.
while. But no one's gonna die.
Yeah.
And no one is entitled to comfort. So
Correct.
there you go. Well, I think perhaps we're going to leave it there for now, but of course, this is the score, so we're going to continue having this conversation over and over and over again, and that's why you love us and you listen to the show. But of course, we do want to hear from you. So, if you have some thoughts, please feel free to write into it. Write to us. The Score Podcast 2.0 at gmail.com, or come find us on Instagram or Blue Sky, and maybe we will read your comments on the air. But like I said, I think we're gonna leave it there for now. And up next, I am so excited because I think we have a very jam-packed, juicy Pure Black Joy on the way right after this. We'll be right back. And we are back. It is time for Pure Black Joy. This is the moment in the show where we take a few minutes to talk about the Black people, places, art, music, food, culture that is making us happy this week. And who would like to go first?
Me.
Go for it.
So, a wonderful thing happened just a few Fridays ago, and we did
I,
not get to talk about it on the show.
I can't believe we didn't talk about this.
I can't believe we didn't either. Like I feel like there must have been like something that had happened, but
Like
it's
everybody
2025.
listening must have been like,
Like y'all have been
uh,
building this up all season.
y'all.
But our special friend in the head, Justin C. Woody, known to some as Anya Nerve, was crowned the 17th winner of RuPaul's Drag Race. And we are so
Yay!
excited because Anya was so good, was so funny, was great all season. And I can't wait to see what she does next.
Absolutely. I was so tickled pink
Yes.
when she won. The last lip sync,
Yeah.
yeah. But her but Anya's performance for the whole season was just, I'm sorry, just a step above. Just every challenge. Um, she just killed it. She just knocked it out of the park, and I'm so happy for her. She deserved every one of those wins that she got.
It was so
Um,
fun.
and that final, not the lip sync, but her actual
Oh, her number
performance,
was
her number was
hilarious.
fabulous.
Yeah,
So
no, it was
fabulous.
fantastic. And one thing I'll say because that this is going to come up as we continue to talk about the show, the lip sync as the thing. I don't. I think unless you're thinking about Sasha Velour,
It's
like
a
I
recent
don't.
development, yes.
Yeah, I don't know that
Mhm.
the lip sync is really what's going to win you the show or not if you win the season. And Anya was so dominant all season. I really do think she could have come out there, forgot to put her wig on with a pair of kitten heels and still won because she was just on top of it. Rue would just laugh when she just like walk out. We would
Mhm.
fall out laughing. So like I was like, it's over. The rest of y'all can go home. Bless y'all
What?
hearts.
And you knew that she was at least going to be in the top two. Like, what was the name of Barry White's wife that she
Oh,
kept
right.
calling her?
Kept calling her that. What was it? I remember that happened, but I never actually went back to
Geraldine?
it was one of those 1970s kind of names. Geraldine, Ernestine. It was somebody like that. But yeah,
But telling her she should be Barry White's wife in the Snatch game. And it's just like I just feel like when Rue has this very sort of specific
hmm
idea of a queen like Crystal Method and calling
hmm
her El DeBarge the whole season. It's just very
Glodine.
Claudine.
Glodine. That was
Claudine.
it.
Yes.
Um, but just when Rue has this very specific idea, like you could just tell that Rue is interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rue is paying attention to this queen. And so many queens that come through Drag Race that like Rue can barely be bothered to remember Plasma's name when she comes up to her at a book signing. Rue almost forgot Sasha Colby's name at at DragCon, and it's Sasha Colby, the Sasha Colby.
I
So
guess
like.
Rue was saying it's just Sasha Colby. That's what Rue was saying.
Yeah.
But for Rue to be paying that close attention
Yeah.
to Anya and what Anya is doing and what Anya is serving, it was just
Yeah.
like clear that
Yeah.
like okay, this person is going places, and I couldn't be happier. I haven't been
Same.
this happy about a Drag Race win in quite some time. Because like when Sasha won, it was like obviously when Nymphia won, it was kind of
Mhm.
like okay, obviously, I guess. Um, I think I haven't felt this way, I guess, since Simone.
Ah, I guess I've had two back to back because I felt really strongly about Nymphia,
You did.
especially as the season went on and I really started to understand her gift as a visual artist. And I'm excited because I do feel like the last maybe 4 or 5 queens they've gotten really right,
Oh,
including the last All
absolutely,
Stars.
absolutely,
And I
absolutely.
haven't always felt that way. And some commentary may be coming about some of the unjust moments of Drag Race.
Ooh,
Mhm.
we should do a whole episode, the unjust moments of Drag Race.
Oh, I would love to. And then I want to send it directly to Rue.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I haven't watched enough Drag Race to point them out, but if y'all give me homework, I will view the unjust moments.
Like, where is Dita Ritz on All Stars? Where?
I mean, she's one of the ones I have so been curious. Where is she?
Where is Dita
What is
Ritz?
she up to? She was what that's that Natalie Cole lip sync is I
Is
will watch
all
that
time
when I'm down. Like I'll put that on and flapping that little bob side to side. Oh, it made me so happy.
when she and Latrice did the video where they were reenacting the scene from Real Housewives of Atlanta with Nene and Sheree in the restaurant. Okay. All right. We'll have to send this to you, Paige.
Yeah.
So you
Please do. Please do. I need to see that. I'm like,
Actually, we should put it in the show notes.
We
Anybody who
should.
hasn't seen that should see that.
We should.
I'm
We
I'm kind
should.
of upset no one has sent it to me specifically yet.
It's
What?
it's everything from the second that they sit down.
God, I love Sheree. Sheree is one of my favorite, favorite beings from reality TV because the way that she could keep a delusion going, my God, it was a talent.
Joggers. Joggers. Spring, summer. September, spring, summer. Oh my goodness, that woman. Oh my goodness. And getting stood up by that man who just got out of jail.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. Anyway. Shout out to Dr. Sheree Whitfield. She has two doctorates now,
Stop it.
honorary
Yes, she does.
doctorates.
She does because she got that one same day as Andrew Caldwell, if
Mhm.
memory serves. Yeah. I got competition on the floor, clearly. So
How do you feel that Andrew Caldwell has the same degree as you?
Also, from where?
I don't
Who
know.
bestowed this degree?
Who knows?
must be that Harvard Harlem University we've been hearing so much about.
I'm not gay no more. Okay, here's your degree.
Right.
Congratulations. Oh my God. Okay. Who else has a pure black joy? Paige. You
My
don't
pure
have to.
black joy is mostly that I was just in New Orleans, and that is always
Yes.
a black time.
Yes.
But you know what? Specifically, I went to my favorite bookstore, maybe one of my favorite bookstores ever, Community Book Center in New Orleans on Bayou Road, one of the oldest roads in the city. Actually predates the city itself. I was looking for a specific book on the baby dolls of New Orleans, but they didn't have it. But what they did have was one of my favorite elders, Mama Jen, who was one of the old owners of the store. And I was just delighted because she remembered me and was like, "Where have you been?"
I love that.
I know, it was so sweet. And like I got to update her and tell her that I moved. And I was telling her about like me and my artistic practice and masquerade art and how I was doing some community workshops on that soon. And that's why I was looking for a book on baby dolls. And so she's like, "You're an artist. You show me some of your work. I want to see some of your work." And I showed her a video from a project of mine called Other Side House that I co-collaborated on with a friend, Marae Regulus. It is like an actual like installation, like a house that is a sanctuary space, especially for Black women, femmes, gender non-conforming, gender expansive folks to come and sit with grief. And other like especially difficult feelings we usually don't get to express in public. And I created these like masqueraded figures that guide people through the experience. So I like sewed the suits and stuff for them myself. And we worked together to like direct their movements and all of that. And so I showed this to Mama Jen and she was just delighted. Like her reaction is like my pure black joy for the month. Like, I'm also like, y'all can't tell me nothing. This project was wonderful. I am an artist. Mama Jen said so. Y'all, she was like speechless. And like, I think just the affirmation of Black elders specifically, like that can just have you feeling on top of the world. It's like y'all can't tell me nothing. I don't need nothing else. Because this is who it's for, you know? Yeah. This is who it's for. And like these are the people whose shoulders I'm standing on as well. So that just was a really beautiful moment. Shout out to Community Book Center and Mama Jen.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. You had that experience.
Sounds so beautiful.
Thanks. It was so unexpected too. It was like a spur of the moment decision to go there and try not to spend all my paycheck on books because they also have a wonderful selection. Listen, Community Book Center, shout out to whoever curates the selection of books. They also always have a lot of Black, queer, and trans authors or poets, like, and some of that stuff be at the front, you know? So it's wonderful to also go in and feel affirmed.
Do they
Yeah.
have an
So,
online presence that people perhaps can go and support?
you know, I don't know if you can shop online directly with them, but through, if you're familiar with the platform Bookshop, um, you can shop through them on Bookshop. So Bookshop is a
Okay.
great platform that supports independent bookstores. If they don't do their own direct shipping, then you can order through their Bookshop storefront, and they get like maybe most of the profit or something like that. Um, so yeah, you can find Community Book Center in New Orleans on Bookshop.
Okay. Or if you're in New Orleans, go check them out.
Yes, go check
Spend
them
your
out.
money there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely.
Well, really quick, my PBJ is just the Cowboy Carter tour has begun.
Yes.
And Beyonce, yes, wonderful, great, very talented. Can we please just talk about Blue and Rumi? Um,
Oh my God.
because I can't. I can't. I cannot. Rumi, so big.
Oh my gosh.
So cute. I can't. And then Blue is just so talented and really just coming into her own. None of that nervousness that you saw during the Renaissance tour. She's out there. She's like, I am Beyonce's daughter. You were going to eat all of this up, everything that I'm serving, and it's just giving me life. It just made me so happy. These beautiful
Blue
babies.
blessing us, coming
Yeah.
out from managing Beyonce's affairs and doing the
Precisely,
choreography,
precisely.
and deciding to actually make an appearance herself. We thank her.
Yes,
We're
finally,
grateful.
finally just doing
We
a little something for herself. Just having a little
yeah.
fun.
I mean, she's already so busy just doing the stage direction,
Hmm.
so she doesn't
Hmm.
have to perform, but she does it anyway, and we're grateful.
We are blessed, truly. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of The Score. As always, thank you for letting us come in your ear holes. And be sure to follow us on all the places and all the things. The Score Podcast 2.0 at gmail.com if you want to write in. Leave us a review, 5 stars, tell your friends, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. And I think that's it. Before we go, any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think it's really important for people to remember that the best way to beat authoritarianism is by resisting and also ridiculing the authoritarian. I think the power of laughter to sort of disrupt and reset this as a moment is really, really something people should consider.
There you go. I love that. It's kind of our show.
But then maybe we don't want people doing that. We do not need any extra competition.
Well, fair enough. All right. I think that's going to do it officially. And we will see you next time where we are continuing our deep dive into season 11 of RuPaul's Drag Race. And I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. So see y'all then. Bye,
Bye
America.
bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Tobago.